Greetings, listeners. My name is Joanna Barbola, and you're listening to Divulge Divino, Inspire, Innovate, Indulge, Art, Wine, and Entrepreneurial Triumph. In a vibrant and dynamic world where creativity meets entrepreneurship, I invite all of my listeners to explore with me the intersection of art, wine, and personal triumphs. As the host of Divulge Divino, Inspire, Innovate, Indulge, I will aim to create a platform for fellow entrepreneurs to share their stories and celebrate their journeys to success. My self published book, also titled Divulge Divino, serves as a guide through a rich and sensory experience, blending the enjoyment of exquisite wines with striking abstract art. Each chapter promises to bring you on an adventure, unveiling the passions and innovations that drive the entrepreneurial spirit while indulging in the beauty of unique flavors and artistic expression. Tune in for engaging conversations, inspiring stories, and a delightful celebration of creativity and success. Now, for the exciting part of today's episode, our guest will be the lovely Vicki Mizel of Brain Sprouts Memory System. Since 1983, Vicki has been dedicated to teaching the Brain Sprouts Memory System, a method known for its ability with consistent practice to enhance neuroconnectivity and neural regeneration in the brain. This system boosts brain activity and facilitates healing, contributing to the creation of what she terms as happy geniuses. An accomplished author, Ms. Mizel has written Love Remembers and A Sister's Love. Her websites, including brainsproutsmemory.com and loveremembers.net, reflect her commitment to improvement and promoting brain health. Explore Vicki's work and discover the transformative power of her Brain Sprouts memory system. Hello, Vicki. Thank you so much for being on the show. It's lovely to see you.
Oh, you too. You're looking absolutely stunning, and it's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So tell us all about this. Tell us about Brain Sprouts. How did you get started? How did you come up with the name? Have you had any mentors that have helped you along the way? Just start wherever you feel comfortable.
Well, let's see. I had a mentor for a couple of months, and then he sort of dumped me. um, it turned out it. I met a memory expert. I didn't know he was a con man,
Oh,
so
no.
I'm not going to mention his name.
Okay.
But it turned out that he went around getting people's money and then not delivering on the memory program, and he also was a drug addict and an alcoholic. Now I didn't know any of this. He's since been sober, I think, 40 years or
Mhm.
30 years.
Mhm.
But what happened was I was at a party in 1980, or in 1980 actually. I was at a party, and I had studied, I wanted to be a psychologist and an actress and a writer. And I had studied speech because I wanted to give speeches. And I fell in love with Aristotle. And Aristotle was part of all the orators from 400 BC. So they had used memory techniques. That's where I'd first learned about it, was in college.
Mhm.
So when someone introduced me and said, this guy's a memory expert, I said, well, do you know the orators? And do you know about, the early beginnings of memory training in 400 BC? Well, he didn't know anything about it. So I figured he didn't know anything. So I just kind of dismissed him. And 20 minutes later, he came to me and said, I'm sorry I didn't do uh, justice to your questions. And that got my attention. Anyway, we chatted. I told him I was in grad school. I was studying statistics and not doing well at it. He said, hire me. I think it was $40 or $60 in those days. He said, I'll teach you the method. So I learned it in a night. And the next day I was teaching kids. I was substitute teaching. So I thought, well, let me teach them and see how it goes. It went remarkably well, and I started using it every single day. And then he brought me these homemade tapes that were not professionally done. I listened to the tapes, and then I was substitute teaching in different schools. And one of the hardest things as a substitute school teacher is remembering names. So I listened to the tape on remembering names, and not only could I remember names and get faster each class, but then I started remembering last names. And instead of being fatigued by the end of the day, I was still alert. And then at night, my mind was still going. And I thought, oh my God, this memory system is doing something to the brain. And then in those days, they didn't believe the brain could regenerate.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 weeks later, I saw this guy give a speech, but he had on a Saturday, he had smoked pot, done quaaludes. He
Whoa.
shouldn't drive. Some old lady told him not to drive, and he invited me to watch him give a demonstration. And I was sitting in the audience of a school. There must have been 800 kids in the audience, and he memorized a 50-digit number. Now, it seems incredible. Once you learn the method, you too can memorize a 50-digit number because it's not
Wow.
as hard as it looks. But
That's fantastic.
the fact that he could do that, I sat in my seat and I said, he shouldn't have a brain. His brain should be mush. And he's memorizing a number like this. This memory system is doing something, it's stimulating the brain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, the long story is I went to him because he'd misappropriated some money that he asked me to invest with him. I asked him if I could just revamp it and buy the rights from him.
Mm-hmm.
And then because I was so excited about how it could help kids in education, once I owned the rights, I deeded him back his, I revamped the program. And then in 1983, it took a while, I became a consultant teaching the memory system. So
Wonderful.
5 years in San Diego City schools. And it turned out it was one of the most popular programs that they had had. So that's really how I got started,
Mm-hmm.
at
And
least
what's
initially.
the age of the students that you're teaching?
Oh, I was teaching K through 12.
Okay.
I
So
was
so
teaching
wow, every age group.
yeah,
Wow.
and then my own abilities improved. I always had a good memory,
Mhm.
for people's names, all my classmates, stuff like that, but I did
Mhm.
not have good reading comprehension skills because I couldn't visualize. And over the years, not only could I start visualizing, but then I was able to paint, I was able to act better. I mean, acting in theater and stage, that kind of
Mhm.
acting.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I started writing. So I started becoming everything that I'd ever wanted to be. But it before it was just I admired those people and I became one.
Mhm.
So that really excited me a lot.
Yeah, so tell us about the acting. Let's hear about that. That sounds like fun. Stage acting.
Oh my
So
God.
was it just stage acting, or did you get on commercials, and who was your agent? And tell us about that. That sounds good. That sounds sizzling.
Oh, I wish it was. I mean, that's all I ever really wanted was acting.
Mhm.
I thought I was going to get a sitcom. I trained at a place called the acting studio, different than the actor's studio, the acting
Okay.
studio.
Mhm.
Once I learned the memory system, I started teaching memory training to actors, called Off Book in Minutes. I didn't have an agent in New York, but I called myself the queen of one acts because I was doing a one act play literally every single summer. I would teach during the year for my
Mhm.
income, and then I kept wanting, to get an agent. I really had a good look, and I did a little bit of background work. I did do a couple little commercials. I did cable television, and my brother had a cable show, so I was a guest on his show. I was in an improv group called
Mhm.
Moments Notice, so we did improv. I
That's
was
fun.
I was doing those dinner theater
Oh,
scare
yes,
like the
dinner
murder
theaters.
mystery
I
and dinner
love
theater.
them, I love them.
So I did all
Yeah.
that.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I think opportunities came to me, but I didn't see them. I
Mhm.
remember meeting a man in an elevator and he said, "Do you need a sponsor?" And I said, "What's that?" And he said, "Someone who invests in your career." And I just thought he was trying to be a sugar daddy and, was kind of a scumbag. And so I just kind of stayed friends with him. I never took money from him. But
Mhm.
after I thought about it, I thought, he actually was a decent guy. Maybe he could have actually helped.
Mhm, mhm.
And
But you found success anyway, even without the acting. Now you found success with your brain sprouts memory class, correct?
well, I when you look at success, you can look at success monetarily and you can
Mhm,
look at success in terms of actions and projects. And
mhm,
I really sat down and thought about it, and I thought, because of me, my genetics, and because of the memory system, I got my I did acting, I did stage acting. I went to Los Angeles because I really thought I was going to get a sitcom, but my backup plan was to get a master's degree and to write a book.
mhm.
So I did finally got some work, not as an extra, but as a stand-in on sitcom. I did a little bit of tiny bit parts in movies. Most of them got cut, but I got my SAG card, so
Oh, okay.
I
Well,
am
that's
SAG.
important.
Yeah,
Sure.
I've been SAG since '98.
Uh-huh.
But I was able to get my master's degree. I was able to write all those papers. When I saw the stack of papers this big, I wrote my first book.
Uh-huh. And
I
now your
got
first book was,
Love
um,
Remembers.
Love Remembers,
Yeah,
okay. And then
Love Remembers.
Love Remembers,
This is
and
my grandma, and that's
that's your
me at
grandmother? Okay,
3.
very
And
nice. And the second book was A Sister's Love,
yeah,
correct?
it's called The
Okay,
Sister's Love.
okay.
And the visual pictures with The Sister's Love, my brother was dying. He was
Mhm,
actually in hospice on life support dying when the doctor called and told me they thought they had 5 days to live. He had 5 days to live.
mm,
And they told me not to come. They said it was too dangerous not to fly. And I said, let me think about this. I took a walk on the beach and I was flooded with images. And what came clear to me was I didn't want to be in this little town where I'm on the phone keeping my brother company while he dies. I wanted to be there with him no
mhm,
matter what.
yeah,
So I called them and said, I'm coming. I know the risks, I understand, and I'm coming. And it was a combination of both my brother, even though he was sick and he was on life support, he couldn't even lift his head. His brain, it was still so attuned in to his body. And he took my hand and he said, "I really need you to get me the nutrition to support my immune system to fight this virus." And I knew what to do. And
mhm,
we had a homeopath in our family, and I got all the nutrition. Even some of it I had to sneak in my bra into his room, but with the medical life support and my advocacy, and the other thing was I visualized him well. I visualized him getting out of the hospital. I visualized a book. I visualized going back and getting my kitty cat and taking him out of the hospital. I visualized us being on Times Square with the book, up in the billboards.
mhm,
And
mhm,
so, they talk about the power of pictures, and in the Bible, it says, where there is no vision, the people perish. And, the whole thing about visualizing, it turns out that visualization was going on in the tombs in Egypt. So they drew pictures when the pharaohs were babies. They drew pictures of great armies and great agriculture and the king and the queens and their children and the servants and plentiful food and plentiful bounty. So I never really made a lot of money with it, but
Mhm.
I saved my brother. I had a car accident where I got hit by a big rig truck. I saved my brain. I saved myself. I've now helped people from as young as 5 to as old as 99. And I've worked in healthcare, I've worked in education, I've worked in business. And so now I see the whole gamut of it, and I have even worked with Alzheimer's and dementia, and they've improved. And it's kept the deterioration from happening at least 2.5 years.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
in that way, I would say it's tremendously successful. But my real dream is literally like I want everybody in the whole world to have this technique so that they have their brain regenerating. The way the brain sprouts happen was literally after having a drink. had a, I had a drink of champagne and I was just coming back, and I think I'd gone to a lecture about neurology and the brain, and they said that people, if there was a football field, that we're only on the 15-yard line. And I thought, no, if you're regenerating the brain, you're on the 20th, then the 25th yard line, you're on the 50th yard line. You've been doing
Mhm.
this 50, 60 years, you're on the 80th yard line. You're a genius. And
Mhm.
I realize that's really what I want. I want everyone to have it. So I think my next step is to want to do more trainings in corporations, license people in corporations so they can have it in house,
Mhm.
have the parents teach the kids. I've tried to get it in the school system mandated across America, and it just didn't happen. That was during Reagan's era.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I sent him the first set of audio tapes that I've professionally done. And he said, I can't endorse it. I said, I don't need you to endorse it. I need you to use it.
So now it's only in private schools. The course is only you're
No,
only
no,
promoting
no,
it in.
no. I mean, I wanted to, I've only taught it in public schools.
Oh, okay.
Taught it in
Uh,
public schools, but I wanted to get it mandated in
right.
public schools because if
Mhm.
kids in first and second grade were learning the memory system, then they would already be scholastically, they wouldn't be challenged as much. They would
Yeah. Yeah.
be masters and they
Mhm.
would have a lot more confidence. It would help
Sure,
with
sure.
vocabulary, with spelling.
Especially at that age, because
Yeah,
I've
with
worked with a lot of elementary age students as a teacher, as a tutor, as a substitute teacher myself, and it is so easy to work with them that age because that's really when they're forming their brain and they're just like a sponge, they just take
oh
it all
yeah.
in and it
Oh
really.
yeah, the young kids, the kids in general learn much faster than the adults because they don't have the
Yeah.
belief systems in the way. No, my
Mhm.
vision in my 20s was I wanted to get it mandated in all of the schools, elementary and junior and senior high. I wanted all the teachers to learn the method so they were using it in the classroom. I wanted all the corporations to use it and then help underwrite educational programs, and I was just one person. So I made a dent, but I didn't make the inroads that I wanted to yet.
Yet, I was just going to say, you haven't finished yet.
No, I'm not.
So
I'm not
there's
finished.
still a wealth of opportunity coming your way where you
Correct.
can just keep expanding and teaching it to your next location. Because you said you're in Denver now, correct?
I'm in Denver
Mhm.
and I'm just starting to teach drama in after school programs.
Mhm.
And I offered to the company to do memory training as a way to get off book for the kids, memory training for actors.
Mhm.
And then I'm actually was when I was in New York a couple of weeks ago, I met at the Lambs Club. Do you know about
Mhm.
the Lambs Club?
I've heard of it, and I also wanted to mention, what about HB Studios? Because I took acting courses at HB Studio,
I
and that's like a real famous acting studio. So did you, have a chance to possibly pitch it to them?
I didn't this trip, but that's a
Mhm.
great idea. I did go to
Yeah.
HB Studios. I actually studied with Madeline Guilford, Joe Guilford's wife, and Joe Guilford was in all the movies. He was the guy in the Cracker Jack commercial that sat on the bench and was eating the Cracker Jacks and looking for the prize.
Uh-huh.
And also Ann Jackson. Ann Jackson also was one of my acting teachers when I was in New York.
Mhm.
I did go to the AMDA, the American Music uh, and Dramatic Theater.
Mhm.
It's a school. I went there and offered to teach memory training to the acting students in December, the end of toward right before their Christmas break, and then have like a week couple weeks in between, and then go back and teach the second half of the program.
Mhm. That sounds great. That sounds wonderful. So now let me ask you, our listeners are probably thinking, how can we get in touch with you? How can we get you to teach your course to our school, to our company, to our organization? How
Exactly.
does, yeah. So
Yes, that's what I want. That's what I
tell
want.
us how everyone can get in touch with you.
Yeah,
What are
I
your
want I
social
want
media?
everybody to feel like they're a happy genius and that they can make their own brain sprouts so they too can create everything they've ever wanted in their life and for their loved
Mhm.
ones. So my website is brain sprouts plural, brainsproutsmemory.com.
Mhm.
If they go there and sign in, I'll give them a tip sheet on how to remember people's names.
Oh, I think I'm gonna have to get that for teaching.
And then my I don't mind giving my phone number. I'm actually kind of old school. My number's
Mhm,
917. I kept my New
mhm.
York number.
Oh, the 917 number. I have my 516 number that I can't let go of from Long Island.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
917-547-8822.
Okay.
And I have a YouTube channel. If they just go youtube.com, Vicki Mizel Memory Lessons. I
Mhm,
have five 7 5-minute memory lessons. I have a 43-minute talk called Tidbits for Alzheimer's for caregivers, how to modify the memory system with that. And then if for a company, the most popular program is to bring me in to teach remembering names to develop relationships and trust and credibility. That's
mhm,
really the most powerful one to be able to help with aligning goals together. Everyone visualize the end result of the goals they have for the company,
mhm,
for their job, for their personal life, and then remembering names. And then, as they practice it, whether they're using it to remember names or goals or lists, and they're creating more and more foliage in their brain, they will have a sharper brain, a sharper mind.
mhm.
As the older they get, they'll get sharper and sharper. So even the memory guy I learned from, he said he has a better memory at 70 than he did at 50. And
Wow.
I've recovered from 2 car accidents with the memory system. I think it's made a huge difference. And
Mhm, mhm.
so, so instead
Okay.
of just teaching as older people and stuff like that, get it while you're young.
Mhm.
Get it while you're agile, get it while you're still happening and smart, and it'll just make everything expand and get sharper and brighter.
Mhm. Okay, listeners, did you hear that? You can find her on YouTube and you can get a feel for her classes. You said you have a couple of different YouTubes that have different classes on there, which I think will be great for listeners just so they can get a sample of your work in case they do want to reach out to you and hire you. So that's wonderful.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Vicki. I'm
Oh,
so
thank
glad
you for
you
having
you were
me.
on the show and you gave us such fantastic information, and your course sounds superb. I'm definitely going to sign up for it and work with you in the near
Yeah, I can
future.
teach in companies, for
Mhm.
families, or one-to-one.
Okay, so you do private or you do corporate? You do both.
I do both.
You do both. Okay, wonderful. Ladies and gentlemen, Vicki Mizel. All righty. So, in closing, I invite all of you to explore my self published book, Divulge Divino, available in both paperback and Kindle version, which you will see right here. I don't know if you can get a good look at it.
Oh, pull it back a little and then bring it closer
Oh,
to
there we
you. There
go.
you go.
The
That's
Bold
perfect.
Divino, this is the front cover and this is the back cover. This is actually one of my favorite paintings that I use for the cover. It's called Mind's Construction.
It's beautiful.
Thank
Absolutely
you.
beautiful. Wow.
Available in
Absolutely.
both paperback and Kindle. It's a wonderful journey of wine and art that you won't want to miss. Additionally, I encourage you to visit my Etsy shop, Art Reflections Design, where you can discover my eclectic, one of a kind abstract paintings for sale. If you're looking for unique home products and accessories, check out my Threadless shop, also named Art Reflections Design. There you'll find home products and accessories adorned with my distinctive artwork. Thank you all so much for your support, and please stay tuned for my next episode of Divulge Divino, Inspire, Innovate, Indulge, Art, Wine, and Entrepreneurial Triumph. Thank you.
That's great.